Hey everybody, this is Jeff Calderone. I am the CEO of Elevated Third. I'm going to be talking today about how to unlock the ABM Blackbox with personalization. This is a presentation that I gave at the Martech East conference a week ago. And for those of you that couldn't join us there, I thought I'd do a recording just to get you guys up to speed. So as I said, I'm the CEO of Elevated Third. Elevated Third is a company I started 15 years ago. We are focused on a number of things: strategy, experience, technology. And what that means is we focus on ABM strategy for B2B clients. And so go-to-market, demand gen, as well as account identification. Experience, that's user experience. That's how do we create compelling experience using technology. Our focus has been Drupal for the last 10 years or so. We are associated with a number of great organizations. We're partners of ITSMA. That's the organization that coined the term ABM back in 2004. We are demand-based partners, and so that intent and audience identification tool that you're familiar with if you're doing ABM. We've been longtime members of the Drupal Association. We go to every DrupalCon. We're going to be platinum sponsors this year. We're Drift partners, and so the conversational marketing tool that you can also personalize and really pick people up where they are in the funnel and move them forward. And then last, we're Acquia partners, and so Acquia is the application support hosting company that really supports the Drupal community, as well as they've got personalization products and other tools that they've built on top of the Drupal ecosystem. So here's what we're going to talk about today. We're going to talk about how to evaluate ABM-friendly personalization tools. We're going to talk about web personalization plays for ABM. And finally, we're going to talk about personalization do's and don'ts. So the first part, we're going to talk about evaluating tools. And so this is from the book, The Practitioner's Guide to Account-Based Marketing, which was written by the founders of ITSMA. So what they say is technology, especially over the last few years, has really reduced the overhead required to create a targeted campaign. The data and tracking, especially around intent, has greatly improved, and the speed to market is much quicker. So what that means essentially is that in 2004, when ABM was coined, when the term was coined, only the biggest, the most giant companies were doing this. And so Xerox, for example, so $25 billion in market cap. And the reason that only the largest companies could do it is it was really a heavy lift from a personnel standpoint, and really you had to be a giant company going after other giant companies to really justify the overhead and the approach of account-based marketing. It was effective, but really expensive. And so technology over the last few years has really helped bring that down to mid-market and even lower. And so you can go quicker. There's less overhead. There's less busy work. We can really use some of these tools to go faster. But for better or for worse, look at all these marketing tools that we have available to us now. So this is the Martech 5000. I think this is actually a little bit old. I think it's close to 8,000 now. But these are all logos of Martech companies. So on the one hand, you see a lot of enthusiasm and energy and just a lot of momentum in the space. On the other hand, where do you start? How do you triage this, and how do you pick what's going to be right for you? So our approach with our clients is to adopt an MVP mindset. Minimum viable product. This is in software, but it's also something in lean startup, lean marketing. If you've read either of those books, it's the same idea. So it's not going after optimal, not going after ideal, and it might not even be that great, but we just start and we solve the biggest problems first with the least effort, and then we iterate and make it better going forward. So in this case, an MVP and marketing stack for somebody that wants to do account-based marketing, you need to have CRM. Almost everybody does. CMS and a marketing automation platform. And research shows that more than 85% of B2B companies have all three of these things, and usually kind of enterprise level of these things. And so this isn't really the constraint. And sort of MVP plus, which should be in the conversation early, although it's not essential, is an ABM platform. We mentioned demand-based, an insight platform, which Discover.org is one of those. A conversational marketing platform like Drift, and a signature marketing like Sigstr. So some things to think about when you're evaluating these tools and what you have and what you need. Does it provide insight, or is it really just more of a convenience? So this is Radar. Radar is about 100-year-old technology almost. It's still in use today, and it's in use because it provides insight to people that understand how it works. And so somebody that knows what they're doing can look at this and know where the thing is, how fast the thing is going, which direction it's going, and is it going to hit anything? And so thinking about that type of simple insight in the MarTech stack is like, does it help us identify where our clients are? Does it help us understand their intent, where they're going? Does it help us understand the level of intent or enthusiasm for that intent, how fast they're going? And if we know those things, can we get in front of that and make sure that they interact or intersect with what we're offering? Really, insight is the key. It's not just overly complicated for the purposes of being overly complicated. The other thing to think about is, does the tool break the budget? And so, you think about how to get from point A to point B. This would be a pretty nice way to get to point B if you're at point A, but it's going to break your budget. And so, does the tool really provide the best, most effective, most efficient way for you to accomplish the things we talked about on the last slide, like determine intent, determine velocity, and figure out how to get in the way of that. Don't overspend if you don't have to. How fast can the tool and the team be up and running? And the point I want to make here is complexity has a cost. And so this is the space shuttle. There are lots of cool bells and whistles. At the MarTech conference last week, there were a lot of very cool technologies and a lot of little buttons you could push and reports that you might need. But all of those things, if you're not careful, add to complexity. And so if I need to go to New York next week, I'm probably going to book on Southwest and get my row 7 seat C that I usually get. I'm not going to buy a space shuttle. I'm not going to engage a space shuttle pilot with my final FTE. I'm not going to go to a space shuttle agency. But that's what it would take in order to move or to accomplish my goals next week. And so thinking about, as you're evaluating your MarTech stack, thinking about complexity, and not in terms of, oh, we might need that someday, let's just buy it. But if you're going to have to get going and you're responsible for revenue next quarter, like, are you able to get where you need to go without an extra FTE or without hiring an agency who can make sense of all this stuff? So just to conclude, don't overbuy. You can always upgrade. Manual is okay. That's something that I think I'll say, and again, like, really, like, part of this process is the tool should come after the strategy. And so having a spreadsheet and an email list to see what works and to see what you need will help you understand what you need to buy versus buying the product first and the strategy second. And then don't make excuses. So, like, let's get going. Let's get MVP. Let's start to iterate with what we have and go from there. So this is an example of a MarTech stack that for our clients and for us. And so, as I said, Drupal is at the center. Really, what we like about Drupal is that it's services-based and allows us to connect really well with all of these different MarTech tools. And so, given that, most of our clients, as I said, have CRM. Most of them have marketing automation. Some of them have signature marketing. You're going to need application support. So you're going to need to make sure that your website and all of these tools are up and running 24/7. So somebody like Acquia is great. Acquia also has a personalization tool called List that is fantastic. And we'll talk about some of those personalization plays here in a minute. Drift for conversational marketing, and again, demand-based for for intent and audience identification. So let's talk about some personalization plays for ABM. Here's some go-to plays. These are plays that, regardless of your MarTech stack, you should be able to do. So even if you have a CMS that's on the simpler side, or have maybe some holes in your MarTech stack, the stuff that we're going to talk about today are things that you should be able to do with your current configuration. So one thing that people overlook with account-based marketing is that you should use it to court your current customers. And so this is an example of one of our clients. Omnitrax is one of our clients. On the left is the generic web page that that anonymous users would see. Everybody sees the page on the left. On the right, because we can set a cookie when somebody logs in, we know that everybody that has set that cookie is an existing client. They have a login that works. And so therefore, we don't have to give them just the generic content. We can give them content that helps them engage with the products that they've already purchased, download our ebook, to use the tool. And then if you see down below, we're upselling and expanding their tool set. So possibly things that either they're not using or maybe even haven't purchased yet with that. And obviously we can't do that if we don't know who they are, we don't know that they're an existing client. So just by setting a login cookie, we can really move our current clients down the road to expanding their services and their ticket price. Industry insights. So this is an example that we mocked up just using IBM.com. The reason we chose them, they're not a client, unfortunately, but the reason we chose them is that they have a gazillion products and services. And so, if you go to a site like this, if you go to IBM.com, really what you'll see is a mega menu that's just trying to help you identify what you want and kind of get you to the right place, as well as typically there's a search window to do the same thing. They're not trying to personalize. Typically, they're not trying to help move me down the funnel. They're just offering me ways to do it myself. But if, for example, they were using demand-based and you could identify that they were in the financial services audience, for example, that we had set up in demand-based, when they come to the site, demand-based helps us turn their IP address into a company identification, which then is in a group that we've already identified, and send back to the website instructions to render the banking page real time. So all of that happens in milliseconds while the page is loading. And so instead of the default page on the left, which everybody gets, we can give them a financial services focused, banking focused content on the right. So it's our same value proposition. However, we're just tweaking it to make it more specific. The case studies and customer stories that we have are financial services. The people that we call out as examples of thought leaders are financial services thought leaders. And again, just trying to move them down the funnel based on what we know about them. And then finally, play 3 is bolster the buyer's journey. And so this is a very simple one that you can use just with UTM strings and an email. And so if we send out 2 groups of emails, the one on the left are people that have opted in but really don't know anything about us. We're kind of starting from scratch with all these folks. We can just give them an awareness email, and then when they come to the site, when they click on that link in the awareness email, we're giving them kind of our general message because they are just starting from the beginning. However, the email list on the right, if they have registered for a webinar, if they have engaged with us in a more substantial way, we don't have to start them from the beginning, and we can, in that UTM string, load a different page with a different UTM string signaling that we're going to load a different page, and give them something that's a little bit further down, give them decision content versus just awareness content if they don't know us. So the final section, we're going to talk about some personalization do's and don'ts. So target as tightly as you can. One thing that, go back here, Targeting as tightly as you can, that allows you to say something relevant. I think that the one thing about personalization that you'll see as a thread through all of these is people don't mind personalizing to an extent, but they really want to know that you're going to use that to help them with their problem. And so by targeting as tightly as you can, you're really increasing the chance that you can be helpful, and increase the chance that they're going to continue to engage on a personal level. Don't be creepy. We're using the Driftbot as an example of kind of the way that you can be creepy, but any sort of decision agent can do the same thing. But if you notice, like, hi Dave, welcome to Elevated Third. How's the weather in LA? Would you like to talk baseball? I think you may have left your garage door. Even if we know that Dave's garage door is open, you probably should tell him. That's probably not going to be a welcome message. And then if you notice, the other stuff there is not quite as creepy. However, it is just showing off. Like, we're not helping Dave with his problem. We're just showing off that we know a bunch of stuff about him and that we've personalized this message. The segment so that we can say something that's worth saying. Don't just check the box. So again, hey name, thanks for reading our email. Here's some stuff, and can we help you with whatever? Like, the mail merge idea, like, everybody can do it. It's no big deal. We're just showing off, like, how are we going to be helpful? And so, imagine rather than something like this, if we said, hey Dave, how is Drupal and Marketo personalization going? Do you need any help? It's still, it's still personal. We're still letting him know that we know some things about him. However, we're taking what we know about him, and based on the context of him being on our website and what we do, we're taking a guess and making assumptions about how we might help him. And you'll find that if you can do that over time, like, people are willing to engage and willing to even give you more information over time if you're showing them that you're going to use it to be helpful versus, this example here where you're just using it to show them. Be as transparent as you can. I think this is really important because, especially in B2B, like, we've got a really long sales cycle, and we're going to continue to ask people to give us information. We're going to continue to try to personalize and try to narrow. And so the more that we can be transparent and let them know what we're looking for and why we're looking for it, and show them that if they do trust us with their information, one, we're going to be good stewards of it, and two, we're going to use it to be helpful. And so finally, don't hide your intent. So, sometimes, and I'm sure everybody's seen this, companies, Facebook, all the others are collecting data just so that they can monetize it down the road in some particular way. And so it's not a deal where they're saying, give me this and I'll give you that. It's like, I'm gonna suck and vacuum everything I can out of your personal profile so that I can use it later. And so rather than asking people for their social security number, their astrological sign, and their dog's name, like, we're gonna say, like, hey, are you on Drupal now? In our case, how's Marketo going? Trying to get some conversations going around what the problems that they're trying to solve, and then giving them feedback quickly that we're going to be good stewards of that information and use it to help them versus maybe monetize it or do something with it. So just to recap the overall presentation, so choose wisely when it comes to ABM tech. Start small with plays that work. And then remember the personalization do's and don'ts. Thanks very much. I certainly would love to talk to you about any of these things. If you'd like to, please reach out. Pretty easy to find on LinkedIn and on elevatedthird.com. There's also my profile if you'd like to reach out that way. Thanks again, and have a good day.